Hi, everyone. My name is Greg, and welcome back to the podcast, My First Season. In this podcast, I interview travel writers and people who work for resorts, hotels, cruise ships, and airlines, and we'll talk about their experience in travel and tourism. My guest today and I have never worked together before. We met through a mutual friend, online, of course. His first season was in Cancun in July of 1995 as a Sailing G.O. He is from Miami, Florida. Ladies and gentlemen, everyone, please help me welcome Mr. Larry Katz. Larry, how are you, sir?
Hey, Greg. I'm good. Thanks. Hi, everybody.
Thanks for being here. So we have a mutual friend, Shannon. She said you'd be perfect to interview. I looked you up. You agreed. So I'm very happy that you agreed to come on. And we're going to get into your first season, if that's okay with you.
Let's do it.
All right. Yeah. So if you can take me back to were you in Miami? Were you going to school? Were you working? And then how did you find out about Club Med? Who first introduced the idea to you?
So, I was kind of on, I guess, what you would call a traditional track. I went to high school and went to university after that. And they asked me at 18 years old, what do you want to do the rest of your life? And business sounded like a pretty good answer, kind of a broad base, because the answer really was, I don't know. And so I went to university in Arizona, and then I transferred back to University of Florida. And I spent about 5 years in college altogether and never really applied myself or enjoyed my studies. I enjoyed partying and hanging out and being with my friends.
I was going to say you went to the two top party schools. If the Playboy ratings are correct, Arizona and the Florida State are very, very big on parties, right?
Yeah. So that part of college was great. But the classes and the studying and that part, I never really, was able to get myself invested in it because I didn't enjoy what I was studying. I was bored. And so, but I did manage to graduate. I went across the stage and shook the hands with the president of the university, and they handed me this, diploma holder. And I looked in there and it was in there, and I was like, they can't take this back, right? Like I actually scraped by. And so, mission accomplished on that thing you're supposed to do, go to high school, go to college. And then I was trying to decide what to do next. And I had a family friend who suggested Club Med, although nobody in my family had ever actually visited a Club Med. I had never stepped foot on Club Med, nor had the guy who suggested it. But growing up in Miami, my summer job was always teaching sailing on Hobie Cats, in Miami in Biscayne Bay. So, unlike studying business at college, sailing Hobie Cats was really fun, and I was really into that. And so, got to hand it to this guy for, his name's Bob, for, helping me decide to take a less traveled path. And so I applied to Club Med, and the human resources was just up in Port St. Lucie. And so I drove up there and had an interview with Jennifer Steidel, who was doing recruiting at that time. And in the interview, I'm sure one of the questions is, would you be willing to dress up like a banana and run around the restaurant being chased by somebody else dressed up like a gorilla? And I said, yes, I would very much like that. And so there was a need at that moment for GOs in Cancun. And Jen called me just a week later and said, you're lucky because there's GOs that wait a long time to get an opportunity to go to Cancun, and that's going to be your first spot. And so, that was it. Packed my bags.
Okay. Could I back you up a little bit here?
Sure.
What age were you when you started sailing?
I started sailing in summer camp, probably 11 or 12. And windsurfing had just become a thing. And I actually, got into that as well. I never got really good at it, but, I did understand the wind at least. And so, the summer camp that I learned, I just started hanging out there, even though I wasn't old enough to even have a job or anything like that. And so the next summer I just hung out at the sailing shack, with the guys, and became, a junior instructor, and then just hung out at that same spot. And for 5 or 6 years, that was my summer job, basically being a Sailing G.O and, operating a rescue boat. And so, armed with that actual real experience, when I came in to interview, it was obviously a good fit on that side of it.
Okay, I'm just going to go back to sailing again because I also sailed.
So I was 23. I'm sorry. I was
oh no, sorry.
I was 23 when I got hired for Club Med. I was 23 when I got hired to work for Club Med.
Okay. Yeah. So I sail a windsurf. So, and you mentioned something about you knew wind. So so when you go from sailing to windsurfing, it's relatively easy to go upwind on a Hobie Cat. So how long did it take you to actually windsurf, like to go out and come back? Go upwind.
And admittedly, I'm not good at it. Okay, I did not get hired as a windsurfing G.O. Okay, I can like tack, I can beach start, I can hit 1 out of 10 water starts. So yeah. I did not put in the hours. I maybe have done a couple of jibes in my life, but as a kid, I was really persistent and relentless, and no matter how many times I fell, my mom would just drive downwind and pick me up, a mile and a half downwind, and but with a windsurf with a centerboard, I'm okay.
Okay. All right. And so when you were giving these sailing lessons, how long on average did it take you to teach someone how to sail? Like, did it take a couple lessons, or could you teach them in an hour? I'm talking about before Club Med. I'm just curious because I'm going to ask you leading up to, and then say you had a really busy day at the beach in Cancun. How long did you have to, like, could you train someone to sail in 10 minutes as opposed to an hour?
When I worked at the summer camp, obviously it was like 2 or 3 week session with, teenage kids, and they were able to really, absorb a lot of all the theory and even racing and all that stuff. When we would have people come rent the Hobie Cats, I could definitely, I could do an hour lesson. I could do chartered lesson, like a half day. And so I had a pretty good spiel, so I could do it in a range of different ways, and also, obviously it depended on what the conditions were, maybe it's not good conditions for a 15-minute, quickie lesson, but, there's people that admit that they had learned how to sail but hadn't done it in a while, and usually with just like a little quick refresher, if it's true what they said, then they could figure it out.
In your interview with Jennifer, besides the dressing up as a banana, did she tell you about the famous working 7 days a week, no day off, 12 to 16 hours a day? Did that come up at all?
Oh yeah. They definitely don't want to surprise anybody with that revelation. So yeah, I had my eyes open, and I was really looking forward to that challenge because in college, I was just really lazy. I was unmotivated. I was hungover a lot and stayed up late, and so I didn't like that. And so I was excited for the challenge of a whole different way of life.
And when Jennifer said a lot of people wait a long time to get to Cancun, did you know what she was talking about? Or because you had just been to Sandpiper, so did you think they were all the same? Did you know there were single family?
No, I mean, I hadn't even been to Sandpiper. The HR was like, a building. Like I didn't see the club. I didn't see anything until I arrived in Cancun.
You're kind of thrown just like in the deep end, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, there was, some orientation materials and stuff like that. But yeah, she explained that Cancun was a singles village and that, and a party place. So I knew. And I realized that was probably would have been my preference if I had a choice,
So, okay. So your first week's going along, you're meeting the sailing team. Do you remember? I know 95's quite a while away, but do you remember what it was like your first week?
Oh yeah, man. Totally. First of all, I was told when I arrived to introduce myself to the chef de village. And so I didn't speak any French. And so I was confused. I thought I was supposed to go to like the restaurant and meet the chef that like cooked the food. I was like, why do I need to meet the chef? Okay, I guess, whatever, chef de village. I arrived, and I think it wasn't like a big arrival. It was, a smaller arrival. And so there, I don't even think there was like anybody specifically waiting for me, but there was a couple of GOs that were there. And I remember meeting them, and I even, I'm still friends with them to this day and correspond with them to this day, from 1995. And they really embraced that I was so new. I was so pale too, I was so white and just like no clue. But I was excited and I was ready. And it was mid-season. So the whole team had been working together and everybody was, in like mid-stride. And so, it was just, it was kind of awkward to be inserted in that. And, the reason that I got hired was there was a drug scandal, okay, in Cancun with the cab drivers. And so there were some GOs that were really like having bad problems, because of that. And so it was so out of control that they had to fire, maybe 10 or more GOs at once that were in this scandal, that were, in danger with their own health and obviously not representing the club in the right way at that moment. So, that was really strange atmosphere to step in. And especially some of the people that had to leave were very popular and they were loved and they were great people. And so I was replacing, a experienced and well-liked, person. It's always better to replace somebody that sucks. It's much easier to replace somebody that sucks than replace somebody that everybody loves. So, all that stuff kind of made it more awkward and more difficult. But for overall, I felt pretty accepted. And, I met the sailing team. And again, like those guys that were on that team at that moment, we're still connected on Facebook. I could still reach out to them and share a funny story or an anecdote. And, for the first couple of weeks, it was just like, holy crap, there's so much to absorb. There's so much to learn. I didn't know what a crazy sign was, or nor had ever done one. And, in Cancun at that time, it was like 45 minutes of like high intensity, like choreography. That was the crazy signs after the show. And it was July in Cancun.
Yes.
And so
in our correspondence, before the interview, you said you arrived just before Bastille Day. So that's actually one of my questions, because I arrived, my first season right before Bastille Day, didn't know what Bastille Day was. So did you know what the heck was going on July 14th?
No, man. I was not plugged into French culture or anything. I had visited, Europe with my family, and I'd been to France, and we had French friends, so I had heard the accent, before, but no, I had no clue. And, they were having like a boat race. The GOs had to build a boat and race from the beach to the lagoon, and so I came in the middle of all that, and I was like, does this happen every week? Like, what's going on? It was definitely a lot to absorb.
Okay. Do you recall who the chief of village was when you arrived?
Oh yeah. His name was Yves Le Bon. And, okay. He's a really tall guy, really gangly, and, had been with the club for 100 years. And, so I finally did meet him. Somebody told me that I wasn't supposed to meet like the chef in the restaurant. Somebody explained to me what the chef de village was. And so I think it was actually outside the restaurant. He was greeting everybody. And so I marched up and introduced myself to him. And the absolute first thing that he ever said to me was, "Cancer, and my name is Larry." And I had no idea what he was talking about. And so, there's a really famous Club Med bit called Float On. And it's like a Motown song. And, it's a old lip sync thing that they would do in some of the shows. And one of the lines in the song is "Cancer, and my name is Larry." But I didn't know that at the time. And I was like, what the hell is this guy talking about?
You know what? The story would have been so much more perfect if you actually had introduced yourself to the chef and he'd be looking at you like, "Hi,
"Cancer, my name is Larry."
Or no, "Hi, I'm Larry. Thanks for the beef bourguignon." Okay.
Where's your hat?
Yeah. After a few weeks, did you want to stay in sailing? Like, I know you're getting a look at what the other people were doing, the land sports, circus, whatever. Did you want to stay in sailing? You were happy there?
Oh yeah, man. I loved it. I loved, you know, going to the beach every day. And I loved carrying the sailboats around because I got in amazing shape. I mean, it was just like such a challenge. And all the other services, they would have to do other stuff during the day. But sailing, we were open all day long. So, I didn't get called to do like, ping pong tournament or other stuff. And that was fine with me. Some of that stuff, wasn't my favorite. I could do without, Gang of Eight and, ping pong tournament and stuff like that. So I was happy to be on the beach, and I thought it was the coolest job in the whole village. We were the beach guys, and, we were the muscular guys and tan guys. And I loved it, man. I loved the rescue boat and cruising around on the rescue boat. There was nothing else that I ever wanted to do at Club Med than work on the beach like that.
So I'm taking it when you arrived, you were not much of a dancer, or you were a dancer?
No. I mean, I still wouldn't say that I'm much of a dancer, but no, I had not tried to learn choreography before. You know what I mean?
So when you were approached by the choreographer to do the show, what did you say?
Oh yeah, I wanted to. That part of the interview and the orientation. Again, that was very clear that was an expectation, and I was, I'm not shy about going on stage, and so I was excited about that, and I did my best. I really tried my best, and I was not the worst one, but I was not like on the front row, but I really enjoyed it, and I appreciated it. I quickly bought into the whole Club Med concept. I got it. I really got it. You're friends with the people that work there, and so when they see me up on stage, they're not expecting that I am good at dancing. They're like, "Oh my God, there's that guy that taught us sailing today, and then we had lunch with him, and he's up there dancing. That's great. We love that. We want to support that." And so I did the best that I could, but I was not good at dancing, I don't think.
Well, it's hard to memorize intricate dance steps at midnight, I always say, but that was me.
Yeah. I tried my best then.
So other than the French, I guess Europeans, did you have any kind of culture shock when you got there?
No, I mean, I was, just kind of raised up in a inclusive household, and we, like I said, we traveled to Europe, and so I was, open to whoever, whatever. It was really awesome, and I appreciated it even at the time. What a special kind of education that I was getting, and how far ahead I would be of my friends that never experienced anything like that. To be sitting at a lunch table at 23 or 24 years old with like a elderly gay Japanese couple and some Italians and French people, and and to try to create a flow and a conversation with everybody, and to do it to look forward to that, to look forward to sitting down and seeing who you're going to meet. So it wasn't a shock, but it was really awesome. And I think I appreciated it at the time. And now I really appreciate how formative that was, in my life, to be having those experiences and to be exposed to this just rainbow of people, just awesome.
Well, so you mentioned eating meals with the guests. So were you always an extrovert before Club Med, or did you or were you a bit shy?
I don't think shy. I'm not the first one that's going to walk into a party, and but I don't know. There was something about it that that was the job to do that, and I don't know. Just at that time, it was such a good fit for me. I wasn't shy, but I had never had opportunities like that, and now I'm a college teacher right now. I'm sure we'll talk about that, later, but to be, now I'm around kids that are the same age as when I started that. And I want to, really encourage them to, expand their horizons and, try to have, diverse experiences with, diverse people. Cause it really, I think, really kind of shaped that part of me.
Did you have time to learn any new skills while you were there? I mean, I know you're busy at the beach, but was there a sport that you had never tried before that you were able to learn?
No, I mean, I guess I really could have dedicated more bandwidth to that. As you mentioned, at that time, back in my day, it was 7 days a week. And, that's what I tell GOs when I meet them now. I'm sure they hear it from all of us old GOs. Literally it was 7 days a week, all day long. And so, it would have really taken away from sleepy time or nappy time or, whatever to do that. I would go, I think I did the flying trapeze maybe like 3 or 4 times, like the whole time I worked at Club Med. And I would go on the snorkeling trips and, got really good at teaching sailing and windsurfing and choreography and schmoozing. Actually my girlfriend calls working at Club Med Schmooze University because, that's where I learned how to be able to walk up to anybody and figure out how to communicate with them.
Okay. Oh, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
Going back to, Cancun 95, what were the top crazy signs back then in 95? Do you recall? Or do you call it?
There was like a CNC music factory one. There was a YMCA obviously is very pervasive through all the seasons that I did. If there was one that that you always did, it was that one. There was a lot of jock jams, from that old CD jock jams. Y'all ready for this? That kind of stuff, man. And Macarena was hanging out.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like I said, I mean, at Cancun, and I never went to another club where it was that long, and the whole, the area was like full. People were into it. They were doing it. They knew all the moves, by the end of the week.
Did you enjoy doing it that 45 marathon session on Elegant night when it was 85 out?
I did, man. I did. What? I really did. Like I was there every night. I really liked it. I really embraced, all of it.
Were there any employees or managers that stood out to you that first season that made a good impression on you that you were?
Oh yeah. Fred from Sailing was chief of Sailing. He's a French dude. Fred Colette is his name. And he was just such an awesome manager. Like he separated himself. He knew that, you have to lead by example. So he was fun and we would have drinks and stuff like that. But, he was always the first one at the shack. He really, would never get like crazy out of control party. He would go to bed like sooner, a little bit earlier than everybody. And so, he was really, amazing to have as a first manager. And I really learned a lot from him, and we stayed in touch, which wasn't easy then because we're both still working at the club. You know what I mean? There was no internet. So, we managed to stay in touch. And then he requested me subsequently a few years later in Huatulco. And so we did another season together then, and it was great. And then actually the last season that I did, Au Pair in Paradise Island, was with him. Again, he was the chief of sailing there again. And so, what a great connection to make right at the beginning. And, he's from Normandy, so he's just freaking French as you can possibly be. And so he could help me, and we, learned a lot from each other. And he loved Guns N' Roses, and so, like I said, I still see him on Facebook like every day, and it makes me really happy to know that he's out there and that we have this really cool connection.
You mentioned you still stay in touch with some of the gang from Cancun. So do you have any funny, clean, appropriate stories, a story you could share with us? It doesn't have to be funny, but as long as it's clean or appropriate, that, I don't know, something happened on a snorkeling trip. I mean, some typical first season, like, I can't believe I goofed doing this. Long as it's appropriate.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think like the first week I was there, I met a girl, a GM, and we were, just like, we had a great week together, and we were hanging out, and I probably didn't play it as cool as a more seasoned G.O, like not as on the down low, it wasn't shady or like it wasn't scandalous or anything. It was really fun, and so when she went to leave, Eve, the chief of village, like grabbed her and grabbed me and like walked us behind the bus, so that we could say goodbye. And all the GOs were laughing and stuff. And so, it's just, like I said, it was good hazing because I was so green. I was such a rookie, but everybody was really cool about it. In Cancun, there's the lagoon side and then there's the ocean side, and so we had a rescue boat, and windsurfing had a rescue boat, and snorkeling had a rescue boat, and scuba had a rescue boat. And so on Mondays, after we were done with work, we would all take the rescue boats to this like convenience store that had a dock called the Deli. And all the GOs from all those teams would meet up at the deli. We would go and buy chips and bottles of añejo, Bacardi, and we would just hang out. And then, we'd jump back in the boats, drive back to the village because it was fashion show night. And so we were all like gross from working all day and stink of rum, and we go and get in these brand new clothes from the boutique, and we do the fashion show, like stumbling up and down the runway, and it was just so fun, and everybody was more than buzzed, but holding it together and funnier, and the GMs appreciated it. It wasn't like out of control, but it was just, that was like every Monday that we would all meet up at the deli. It was awesome, man. And, there's another guy, James Malia, who I met that season, and another guy named Kevin McGilvray. And we're really close still, now that I'm talking to you and I'm thinking about it, like that was a long time ago. And, James Malia is, one of my best friends still to this day, so what an amazing decision, and how blessed I am for, the way that it went down.
You mentioned before that there was no internet in 95, which, yes, we all know, but were you a news junkie before Club Med? Did you feel cut off like from everything?
No, I wasn't a news junkie, and I didn't care at all.
Okay.
I'm a film fan. And so it was a little weird not to see movies when they came out. There's a couple of years of movies that, I missed out on when they first came out. And so that was, if anything, but, the being cut off part, like that was not a problem for me.
As your season comes to an end, because you mentioned you went to Huatulco with Fred after Cancun, correct?
No, that was a few seasons later.
Okay. So what happened? How long were you in Cancun actually?
So, like we said, I got there
July,
beginning of July, and then the season was ending, I guess, around October.
That's right.
Yeah, October. And so, everybody was moving on, and so yeah, I did decide to do another season, and the assignments were coming in, and people were getting assigned to this village or to that village, and I got assigned to Paradise Island in the Bahamas, and so I did some research on it, and it wasn't, specifically a singles village, but it also wasn't a kids village. It was a kind of a couples and, older village. And so I decided to move on to there, and maybe like one or two other people from Cancun also got moved to Paradise Island.
Was that one of your choices, or you didn't get any of your choices?
No, I don't even remember. I mean, I'd just been there a couple of months, so I don't think they asked me if I had a choice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You go where we send you. Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. I think that was the when your first season going into your second season, it's like, you're going where we tell you.
Did you meet any celebrities at all at any of the villages you worked at?
Well, Paradise Island was a big tennis village, and so Pam Shriver was a tennis player that I had heard of. But besides that, no, nothing that I can really recall.
Of all the seasons you've done, so including your first one, do you put the word, or do you use the word magical? Like, was your first season magical because it was your first one, or are they just all special in different ways?
Yeah, no, I would say they're all special in different ways. And I've got, like I said, friends from every season. I've got stories. I've got photo albums from every season, and I can look through them and, just get snapped right back to those places.
Was it hard working your first? I'm guessing you were in Paradise for New Year's Eve. So was it hard working your first New Year's?
No, man, no, not at all. It was great. I mean, it was freezing cold though. Who even knew that it could get that cold in the Bahamas? But yes. For Christmas and for New Year's, it was like freaking 40 degrees, So, but no, it was fun. It was great. I loved it, man.
Did you experience any hurricanes at all at your time in Club Med?
Yeah, first season in Cancun. There was, I think it was Roxanne, and it was coming right at us, man. Like, it was definitely coming right at us. And I think that was actually the day that I was supposed to leave. Was the day that the hurricane was coming. Is the day that I was supposed to leave and go home and have my little break before the Bahamas. And the hurricane was coming. And so Yves LeBon gathered us all together, and he's like, guys, this is my fourth hurricane or something like that. And that made me feel a lot better that he was on top of it. And so, we ended up having to evacuate the village, and we all went to the Cancun Convention Center, and we were there, for I think one night. And there was a bunch of other resorts that were also hunkered down there, and Club Med was the only place that had food to hand out to all the guests and G.O.s that were hunkered down. And we went back to the village after the storm, and it had really trashed the village. Like, the scuba compressor from the scuba shack was over on the sailing beach, and there was like, piles and piles of sand everywhere. And, so I ended up having to stay for a few more days and help dig out of all that.
I'm sorry, I have to ask, because you had I personally went through 5 hurricanes in my career. I hated every one because of the cleanup. So this is true. You were the day before you were to leave, you would have gotten out of all of this, but you had to stay, and you had to help with the cleanup.
Yeah. And,
oh my God, that's the worst luck I've ever heard. Oh my God. Okay.
When I, like, if you, listen, Club Med is not all awesome. There was definitely times where I did not want to talk to anybody, where a GM would be coming towards me on the beach, and I would be thinking to myself, please turn, please don't come see me, please don't talk to me. I was just like sick of, of it, for at certain times. And I had injuries too, like I would hurt my back or sprain my ankle or something like that. And that's it. I didn't know a way to say, hey, I need a day off, because I knew that meant that my team would have to carry that extra weight. And so, I didn't want to ever put them in that spot. And so, also at that time I was having really like debilitating lower back pain. And so I'm trying to like dig this sand. Yeah. And I'm supposed to be home on my freaking waterbed back in Miami. And I'm, digging sand, and I could barely, stand up straight. So yeah, you're right. It was that day, those couple of days sucked for sure.
Well, sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
So
take the good with the bad,
That's right. Would you have time to tell us what you currently do now? Like, you mentioned you were a teacher, but you're also in the film industry, I believe.
Yeah. So, actually, like in my life, I have run away and joined the circus 3 times. And the first time was Club Med. And then after Club Med, and so I did 6 different seasons. And after Club Med, I was at a crossroads about what I was going to do with the rest of my life. And I thought about corporate Club Med or Club Med was just opening an office in Coral Gables. And so I sent in applications and thought about doing that. But then a friend of mine was attending university in Orlando called Full Sail University. And he was studying audio production, but he told me that they had a film program and he knew that I was always into movies. And so I came to Orlando, and it was appealing to me because it was a 1-year program, because I didn't want to go back to school because I was so bad at it the first time. And so I ended up enrolling at Full Sail, and it was really perfect for me because it exposed me to what are realistic entry points to work in film production, because I didn't know that. And what I also learned, Greg, is that film production requires 12 to 18-hour days of being on your feet. And I said, oh, wow, I am uniquely qualified for that. That does not scare me, because I went to Schmooze University where I stood up on my feet for 18 hours, 7 days a week. So, that was not any barrier or anything that scared me. And I was like, man, I'm going to have an advantage over people because I can work those hours. And so sure enough, I really took to film production, and I was like the valedictorian at Full Sail, and moved out to LA shortly after graduation from Full Sail. I was able to get started. I had learned about this internship program with the Directors Guild of America. And I saw that would be a real hookup for me if I could get into it, but it's really hard to get into. It's really competitive. Maybe they take like 15 or 20 people a year. And so I wanted to do some research to improve my chances of getting in. And there was a XGO internet page back then. And I posted on the XGO internet page. And sure enough, another guy who had been a GO had gone through that Directors Guild program. And so I was able to speak to him. His name escapes me at the moment, but he pretty much walked me through the application. And with his help, I was able to get into this program. And, that was like 2002. And ever since then, ever since I got into that program, I trained to become an assistant director. And since then, I've never had to send out a resume or look for a job. I was in, and I was able to back up that, membership in that club with work ethic and charisma that I learned with Club Med to deal with all kinds of people, elderly, gay people, people from all over the world. And, it really, the things that I learned at Club Med helped me to stay in film world, for like the last 21 years. Then the last time I ran away and joined the circus, I saw on the internet, there was a water propelled jetpack, and a guy was flying around over the water with this jetpack. This is 2012. It came about 9 years ago. And my eyes about popped out of my head. And so I made some phone calls, and I got the inventor of this thing on the phone. And we got to talking, and he invited me down back to South Florida to join his company, the startup water jetpack company. So, at 40 years old, I left Hollywood, left my job in film production, moved back to South Florida, and I learned to be a jetpack pilot and instructor. And I mean, like windsurfing, if you could teach windsurfing to people that have never done it before, you could teach anything to people. And so, it was really fun and funny all those years later to come back full circle and to be a water sports instructor again. And so that was a extremely fun chapter that lasted about 2 years of traveling around the world and, teaching people how to do this thing, stay with Club Med friends in the south of France. And then that ended. And now for the last, about 5 or 6 years, I'm back in Orlando and I work at Full Sail University now. And now I teach students about film production. And at the same time, I still work in film production. And so, Greg, I got to tell you, man, I'm a happy and fulfilled guy. And Club Med was the springboard for everything that has followed, if you ask me.
So you sound like someone that would recommend Club Med to a future potential G.O. then, I'm guessing.
Oh yeah. Any chance that I could get, like it's really valuable. And, there's a thing now called a gap year that people take after high school to try to figure out more what they want to do. And so this, Club Med was my gap 5 years, to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And that, you mentioned Shannon earlier. I met her when I went back to Club Med, I think for the first time as a GM. And, the reason that she remembers me is because I have a few drinks and just tell her and all the young GOs all night how proud I am of them and what a great thing they're doing and how cool their life can be if they, really take the value away from the experience of working at Club Med. And I'm a huge advocate and a cheerleader for GOs. And, when I go back to Club Med as a GM, and it's been a couple of years and I'm really missing it. I love spending time with the GOs and I love to show them like, hey, really cool things can happen. You're not wasting your time. If you appreciate what this experience can give you, then you can really use it as a cool springboard into, the next chapter of your life.
Wow, that is great.
Yeah,
Can't
man.
think of a better ringing endorsement. And I really want to thank you for sharing your story with us, but I would like your story to continue on my other podcast about your time as a second unit director, assistant director. So I believe you have agreed to come on that one as well. And then we could share it with everyone else. Does that sound
Sure.
good? Okay.
Yeah, love to.
Great. Well, everyone, that was from Miami, Florida, Mr. Larry D. Katz. Any last words, Larry?
No, man. Thanks for having me. I obviously I love Club Med. It was, one of the most significant things that ever happened in my life. And, I just really cherish those experiences. And so thank you, Greg, for, inventing this podcast and, getting that chance to hear everybody's story.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming on. That was Mr. Larry Katz, everyone. We'll see you all next week. Bye.
Bye, everybody.